We are
rolling.
Recording.
All right. Ooh, yeah.
Got my iced coffee. Cheers.
Cheers.
Got my hot coffee. Cheers.
Cheers. I got my tea.
Yeah, you got your water. Nice.
All right, we're ready to go. I think I got a bruise from biking.
That's what you tell them, honey. I took some notes. I have some questions.
Really?
For you.
Wow. Okay, I was ready to fire, but you go ahead.
I'm going to give you some high level. I'm going to read all three of them, and then we'll just start talking on which one pops, which one makes you feel like chatting.
All right. Good. Finally, it's just a way to start conversing with you.
Okay. What keeps you interested in your man is question number one. What unexpected things does he do to keep you intrigued, and what do you feel in the moment when he says, let's do one of these unexpected things? Right? How many days in between you feeling excited and then feeling bored about your relationship?
Oh, days?
Yeah, because I know that happens to women.
Well, maybe we'll start with that one. I think we should address each of them, but... Oh, we're talking about me, right? So the last one is how many days until you go from excited to feeling bored?
Yeah.
0.2 days.
It's about right, guys. It's about right.
It can really, just...
keep it fun.
I mean, there are literally times I just have to go, Tara, get to the end of the day and see how you feel then.
And there have been days where I just
not just
I
about
pushed
that.
on you, where I just kind of push on. We're standing there talking, and I just push your shoulder a little bit.
Yeah, and bloop,
and
it just switches around.
You just get a little bit rowdy. that's a way to make things fun.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I am being serious. It can be 0.2 days, and it's not even just the topic of, going from excited to bored. It's just like, it could be from content to ticked off, and I consider myself a pretty even-keeled person, relatively to what I've heard, like, other women can be, but still, it can go like that. And it's actually relatively recently that I've developed use this tool of just going, Tara, just see how you feel at the end of the day.
I'd say you're in the top 80% of even-keeled women. Because
of the even-keeled, or just of women?
You're in the 80th percentile, Tara, of even-keeled women. Because there's grandmas out there, like grandmas with lots of grandkids and lots of, and they've been like a grandma for a super long time.
A mom and then a grandma.
And
then
a grandma. Yeah. So they're very even-keeled as women. Yeah. But for your age, you're probably in the top 99th percentile, 99.999.
Yeah, that's pretty good for
your age.
For my age.
Yeah. Well, you're younger, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you say I'm older group, but anyways, I should probably speak up. So it can be, and even less than that, 0.2 of a day, or you just give me the literal or figurative nudge and flips things around. The initial reaction, which I think is good, that is like, I might initially be like but it can turn into a playful, like, let's wrestle kind of
player.
Yeah. So is that about on par? Is that what you thought? Was it a trick question?
No, I thought,
how many days?
For you, I thought it would be maybe 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
And then you'd be kind of bored, like, what are we even doing? Are we going to go out to dinner? Are we going to go for a walk? Can we go do something? And there's that there's that tone in the voice. I'm exaggerating, but I can hear it. It's kind of a down tone, kind of a...
Well, we're not talking like...
kind of want to go do something.
Okay, so as far as like that kind of bored, probably.
And then I remind you about Ma, Little House on the Prairie, and she never got to go anywhere.
Nowhere.
They went to town once a month, and she could buy some goods at the general store.
Right, and that's if there wasn't a storm or something crazy going on.
At the Olson's general store. Mercantile. The Olson's Mercantile.
Yeah, and I think that is going to be different for different personalities. Like, generally, And what? I mean, that it's a very broad question, but yeah. Are you thinking of just like needing to go out and like do something?
Just seeing what you say. Okay. Second question, which one do you want to answer this?
I already forgot them, so I just asked one of them.
What keeps you interested in your man? And what unexpected things does he do to keep you intrigued? And what do you feel in the moment when he's saying, let's go do one of these unexpected things?
So I guess if I answer the first one, I'd probably end up answering the second one. So what keeps
if you want
me
to be that efficient.
interested in
Not
you,
good for a podcast, but all right.
What keeps me interested in you, I would say, is also what kind of bothers me about you sometimes. And that is your second question. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. And I'm like, I've got work, or like I plan to do this for the next 4 hours. And it's like, it's intriguing because it's fun stuff. Or even if it's just riding with you to go drop off parts or something. Like I want to go and, but I'm like, I've got work to do. And so it creates that pull, right? Like when you're dating and you have to work, but you really want to see the other person. But you have these things that you need to do. And if you didn't have that to look forward to, it quickly gets dull. I think that's the demise of routine. I mean, you need routine in life. I was writing about this the other day, preparing for a submission series on wifey school. And, it's order and chaos. Like, we seek order, a certain amount of order. All of us are okay with a certain degree of order and a certain degree of chaos. We have our own kind of homeostasis level. And when you get married, you actually are settling the chaos of dating, of, other opportunities in life, and you're settling into life. And that actually then can become your demise because you become so orderly that you no longer have that excitement of the chaos. So actually what is exciting to me is also what bothers me about you at times, because you introduce that chaos again. But it's essential to keep our relationship lively. I think there needs to be one person who introduces, at least, it's usually one person that is a little bit more of the introducer of chaos, but hopefully it's not like a level 10 chaos, right?
Most of my chaos is fun.
Right, and by chaos, it could be, just like a kid playing catch, tossing a ball in the living room is a certain amount of chaos. Is it a baseball, or is it like a little beach ball?
Squishy ball.
Yeah, that won't break anything.
Is it a Nerf ball?
Right. So the degree of chaos and the type, will determine what kind of result. Well, it can be a determiner of the type of result. So, but if a person is a level 10 chaos maker, you're always going to be in tumult in a relationship.
So you've been doing some things on wifey school about one of your last podcasts was talking about how you're glad, you're happy, you're very fortunate that you got married at a young age. You got married 10 days before your 19th birthday, to me.
Yep. Just to be clear.
And that's been your only marriage. It's been your only long-term relationship. And then I showed you a review of this. Should I play it?
Yeah, you might as well
I'll play it quick. This lady was reviewing her own channel and people
and responding to a comment.
And responding to somebody.
Right. Because she had been talking about she got married at 18 and someone responded negatively about that.
Yeah.
And so she had a real poignant response about that.
Yep. Let me find it here quick.
So yeah, well, what do you said my only long-term relationship. What do you consider long-term? Because I had two relationships 1 year or more prior to you.
Oh.
And I think that's actually beneficial, that.
Yeah, but that was high school. And so it's a little bit different. Like, I would consider a year long-term relationship in real life because you're adults, you're doing a lot of adult things. You're able to stay at each other's apartments, whatever's going on. You might even live with somebody for a year when you're adult. But when you're in high school, you're not living with somebody. You're not
Yeah.
doing super adult things, right?
Yeah.
You're still, and you don't get to see each other that often. You know, you're not spending the whole weekend every weekend because you're not living together, that kind of thing, right? So I would say a year in real life is probably a decent level amount. Well, it's amount of time that, you know. I guess I'm rating it based on myself because I only had a couple of 2-year at the most relationships, and that's in real adult life. And you know, the last kind of year wasn't good. You know, it's what those relationships when you're an adult that you try to save, you think it'll work, you know, and it's just not working. Mm-hmm. So anyway, here it is. I'll play it for the camera here. I won't play the whole thing because it's long. But
I've been with my husband since I was 18 years old, right? I'm 35 years old. This woman left that comment saying I took my first and only option, and I guess it's supposed to be shade or diss. It's like, okay, like, was I supposed to sleep around with a bunch of men? Was I supposed to waste my time with a bunch of men if I felt like I chose the right one for me?
so that's the gist of it. It goes on quite a bit longer, but it's a good one to review because she was getting, you know, people were putting her down for marrying her first serious relationship and getting married at 18 years old. And she's like, was I supposed to go out and play the field and sleep around and be with a lot of guys and that type of stuff? And so I thought that was interesting because you've been talking about that.
Yeah, I put out a video the other day about, you know, I'm glad that I got married very young. I mean, in our today's day and age, you know, getting married 9 days before your 19th birthday is young. And I remember even going to the high school reunion after that, you know, a few years later, and, you know, some of the girls were kind of confirming, like, did you actually get married, like, right after graduation? I'm like, yeah. And like, the confirmation, you know, some of them were married by that point or still, you know, trying to make that happen. And it was as if their faces, the reactions were like, oh, you can do that? And, you know, like a longing. And so, yeah, I got some shade too, you know, in the comments about that, you know, like, you know, that's really bad advice, or, you know, but it's all like that woman said, you know, was I supposed to just be playing the field and second guessing myself? Because I've thought about this. Had I second guessed myself and went like, you know, he'll be around in 4 years, you know, if he really loves me, he'll be around in 4 years when I graduate college or something like that. It was like, well, why not make the commitment then, you know, and start growing together then? And, you know, I was not like and I'm not like a rebellious kind of person, but I think it's imperative that you think for yourself. And I think that's something that fortunately I was taught and encouraged to do, even though the same people that taught me to do that were probably like, dang it.
Well, also right out of high school, you know, they went to college, and you spent the first 4 years out of high school in a marriage.
Yeah.
So you have 4 years of experience in life, in business, in marriage, in relationships, in real experience, in real life experience. Most of those gals got out of school 4 years later. That's why your first reunion is 4 years after. You know, your
a 5-year reunion.
Your 5-year reunion is after you get out of college, basically.
Yeah,
and the timing is perfect for all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And me and you showed up, and first of all, most people didn't recognize you because you have blossomed into a, you know, you went from an average country girl to a good looking, you know, a good looking city girl that could be in a metropolitan area, and, you know, and fit into other people that are trying to care for themselves to look that way, right? And now believe me, there's a lot of totally hot country girls right out of high school. But not everybody's that way. And so, yeah, I think you came in with a lot of just poise and experience and a whole different level of confidence. You weren't there to tell all your high school classmates that you graduated college cum laude and all that kind of stuff. You were like, come chameleon. You were like, oh yeah, me and my husband do this, me and my husband do that. We've lived here, we've lived there, we're over here now, whatever it was, right? Mm-hmm. And it was totally out of the realm of even comprehension for most. Mm-hmm. And just because life is, society is telling you to do something doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't mean you have to rebel either. You have to choose your own path, and that's what you did. You were on a path to go to college, but you had looked at it and said, holy cow, my debt is going to be pretty high. My wages are going to be relatively low when I start, and it's probably going to take me 10 to 12 years to pay off this school debt if I focus on it.
Right.
Or 20 years if I don't.
And live a minimal lifestyle at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but we were in business together very quickly after getting together, and that worked out really well.
So there are some important points to make. I think that I was ready. I was also very fortunate. You're 12 years older than me, so you have a lot of life experience. I was also trusting in you that there were several times that you said, I learned this from past experiences, that this doesn't work out well. And I trusted you with that, you have lived enough life, and to trust that if you were sharing that you cared about a relationship and you didn't want to repeat past mistakes.
To the gals out there, tell me why that's attractive. Because you were attracted to that. You were attracted to me for a lot of reasons. One of them was...
your body.
Okay, I'll speak faster. One of them was my experience in life.
Yeah.
Why do women look for life experience in men, but men don't look for life experience in women?
I don't think women consciously look for life experience in men, but I think subconsciously they do. And I think it's because you can look up to a man, you can trust him more readily. There is...
so it comes across as knowledgeable and worldly and distinguished, maybe.
Well, he can,
in that sense.
He can take care of things, i.e. take care of me, he can take care of a family. And, you're not like, oh, is he going to handle this situation right? Oh, is he going to handle that situation right? There's so many situations where I'm like, yeah, even if it's a first time thing, I know it's a first time thing for you, I'm like, he's got so much other experience that you're going to come out of the gate handling it much better than I would even know. Like, here's a funny example. This is a funny example, okay?
Get ready to laugh, everyone.
Yeah, get ready. So the other day, we have a kitten, but she's grown. She's a year old now, but still very much acts like a kitten.
Yeah.
And so I was training her. We were training her to get brushed, and she's getting better at it. But I was really going at it because she has a couple of mats in her armpits. And so I had a fistful of treats, and her treats are actually our other cat's regular crunchy food. And so,
we got her tricked.
Right? And she just loves them. And so I was like, this is going to take a handful of treats. Usually she gets like 6 at the most. You give her 10 sometimes. But I had like a handful, and I was just feeding them to her as I was brushing her. And so she got quite a bit. Well, the next day, she had quite the poop. And it got stuck. She has long fur, and it was smushy and sticky. And I called you. Fortunately, you were...
Got stuck on her long hairs on her rear end.
Yes.
Yeah.
I called you like, John, I need you to come up and help with a cat poop situation. And you're like, you got the memo. You came up right away.
The message
and
was clear.
It took both of us like 20 minutes
to clean her up. Yeah.
What was my point? Oh, my point is, even while we were doing that simple task of cleaning up cat poop off of the cat, you wouldn't think that like, oh, that takes a lot of life experience. But there was a point where you're like, now get the dry paper towels at this point. I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm like, I'm how old? Like, why didn't that occur
This
to me?
dude knows how to clean poop.
Yeah, I'm like, I got a winner. He knows how to clean up.
Now,
cat.
okay, so I was 12 years older than you when we met.
Yeah. But
And
I mean, that's a
I
funny,
still am.
Yes.
And we'll get back to that. And I had a son, which I had full custody, 100% full custody of. I was the sole parent, and he lived with me his whole life. And so what other than being able to clean poop?
I know,
because
that was-
obviously having a kid,
Well, it
I know
was-
how to do that.
but that was
But
kind of the
what
thing.
is attractive? Because if you said that, if you lined all that up, you mean you were just about 19 years old. You met a guy that was 12 years older than you. So that means when he was 13, you were 1 year old.
Yeah, you were already going to like 6th grade or middle school when I was.
And he's got a kid, and he's older than you, and right, all this
Yeah.
stuff. Why were you attracted? What got you excited about this older guy?
So other than your dashing good looks, I got to meet you and
Good
see
looks
you.
only go so far.
I know. So you fortunately had other things working for you. Like I could tell you would be able to handle a cat poop situation. You ran a school, and so I got to see you in this respected situation. I could see you handle adults.
Lots
right?
of people.
I could tell that you had a skill, right? For me, ambition and potential was a real big thing when I was looking for someone or considering someone, and you had already put that into action, right? It wasn't like, oh, he's studied 6 years and he has a master's degree and now he has the potential to do this. No, you were already putting it in action. I think subconsciously something that stood out too, you said you observed me observing you, and that how you were with your son. And I don't remember consciously doing that, but I think subconsciously that was something that I was doing. And I think also subconscious was, okay, he knows how to take care of a family, right? Mm-hmm. He's already got that knowledge, it's not foreign. He probably isn't afraid of it. And I think probably somewhere in the subconscious is like, okay, this is a ready-made situation.
So his number one is
Oh, I got this horsefly that keeps biting me.
well, let's kill it. Is it a horsefly or is it a fly?
No, a small
Probably
horsefly
just
or a big
biting
fly.
Biting fly, yeah. So obviously physical attraction is a thing, right? And that's usually what gets people noticed. Secondly, there's, did you get it?
No, I was like way slow.
Smack yourself again, Tara. Woo! So there is physical attraction, but you're talking about potential and capability. And potential is one thing, but when you see potential in action, or when you see capability and abilities in action, and it wasn't, we were in a martial arts school, I had a martial arts school, you came in as a student, and it wasn't always good interactions. There wasn't always easy interactions, when you're in a martial arts school. It's not like the salon. It's not like everybody's always polite, and no, but not everyone's always polite in every business. But in a martial arts school, it could be a potentially violent situation. There's been a couple times I've had to deal with that kind of thing. I don't know if ever
People's egos.
I don't know if ever in front of you.
No, I don't.
No,
remember.
there's blatant challenges. People walk in the door and say, "Oh, you think you're a great martial?" And then you can't just. You could call the police, but they might take 15 minutes to get there. So,
yeah,
you're going to deal with a fight in a few minutes. So your top level is you noticed me. The second one is you got to know me over time, which can generate and build attraction, and then you also got to see me in action, dealing with things. So, what character traits come out that you would tell young women to look for then out of this conversation?
I think it's true. I've listened to a lot of podcasts about, the different colored pills and manosphere and all that kind of stuff.
Let's not confuse with any of that kind of bullshit.
But
it's all bullshit.
So what was your question again then?
Oh, well, let's just
What
do
should young women?
the top 2 or 3 things that, you know, what would you want to look past and then look at? You know, because you could look at a guy and go, oh my gosh, look at him, he's got 6-pack, look at him, he's built, he's got a V shape, oh, he's strong, he's this. But what are you looking past once you realize, okay, I'm attracted? That's number 1, right? I got physical attraction.
I would look at, because most situations you're not going to be able to see them in their working environment, in you know, at their job. You know, which is a good way to kind of see how they are, how they handle things. So I would look at their friends, who they hang around with, and I would meet their family, and similarly see how they are, who they are in that group,
Interacting with their family.
and how they interact. So if they have a bunch of yahoos for friends, you know, they're going to be a yahoo at some point. But if they're, you know, they have maybe a variety of friends and long-term friends. Do they have long-term friends? You know, maybe things are not great in the family, but what is their stance on that? Because thankfully you looked past that in my situation, where you didn't go just meet my family and go, oh, well, this is where we're headed.
I can't be here.
You talked with me and you saw how I responded to the talk, and so you were able to assess, I assume, okay, she can change, she has decided to change, she's different. And so similarly, maybe he doesn't have everything together with his family, but that doesn't mean that he's the problem. But you have to be able to discern the difference, and that can be tricky.
Yeah.
But I would look at those 2 things. Fortunately, I did get to see you in your business, and a number of your students were also, you know, you were friendly with them, and so I got to see how you interacted with them, and that was, I think, very, very helpful. But since you can't do that in most situations, I'd look at friends and the relationship with their family.
Okay. But does that tell you, what does that tell you? Are you looking for politeness? Are you looking for being able to deal with a tough situation? Are you looking for complimentary behavior? Are you looking for assertiveness? What are you? That's
a good question, because I would be looking at all of that. So let's just start with the family dynamic. You know, is there an appreciation? You know, even if the relationship isn't great, maybe it's still he looks up to his parents. You know, there's a sense of respect. So that would be number 1, I would say. Where there's going to be challenges more likely in the family than, you know, friends you can just like kind of write off. But, and if that does happen, you know, hearing his reasoning of why that is. So maybe you have a family get together and not everything is peachy, but then you get to hear why. You get to hear his reasoning, because you're going to have, if you get married, you're going to have challenges at some point. So
and you're more likely to be around the family than the friends.
So the challenge is, because you're already falling in love with this person, you're going to have rose-colored glasses, and you're going to see everything that he's right about everything
from his perspective. Yeah.
Yep. And I want to say that's where you go to talk it over with your friends, but I would talk it over with an elder. I think there's much more in our history. There was a place for elders, like an aunt or an uncle, you know, because your parents,
grandma or grandpa.
Yeah, because I think your parents, your siblings, and your friends will have a different perspective, where an aunt or an uncle or grandma, grandpa are removed enough, where, you know, that they'll be able to give you more neutral and more, just a better perspective.
So who'd you talk it over with?
Who did I don't think I talked much over. Because I don't think I felt that I had someone I could trust like that.
You didn't think you had problems either.
I didn't think I had problems either, but I had already had enough experience in life at that point where I had already been through situations where I knew I couldn't talk with my parents. So like one quick example is trying to go on exchange to, just in general, is exchange, foreign exchange. And I literally had to talk my parents into it and get them to sign documents, because I was underage to go, earn my own money to go. And so I had learned to that point through a number of examples that if I wanted, that they had their own biases of what they thought was best for me. And it wasn't always what I wanted. And I had to follow my own.
Which is rightfully so of parents. It's you're not always going to 100% agree with your children. Right. And you may think that you see things they don't, but you also have biases that they don't.
Yep.
And a lot of people, when you're online, when I see you doing wifey school and talking about that you were fortunate you got married at a younger age, and then people come in and say, that's terrible advice. You can't tell people that. I got married young and it was disastrous.
Yeah.
That's a person speaking from their own bias of a bad situation, which the question would be, what did you learn from that situation? Not just tell everybody that that's a bad thing.
Right.
That's a very non-wise opinion, just to blatantly say never do that.
Yep.
Especially with somebody's life. I mean, people for eons have been getting married at young ages, and
so the big, obviously you can't put all the information in a single podcast, but the other key component that I would say is you have to have people around you that you can trust to give you more of an unbiased opinion, feedback. And so in that situation, especially when you're young, because you don't know everything, right? And there are bad apples, then bad apples that don't even know they're bad apples yet.
But why would somebody go to someone else? Because I wouldn't. Why would somebody go to somebody, and why would I go to one of my friends and say, hey, what do you think about Tara? I'm thinking about asking her.
Well, I did not actually suggest to friends.
No, or parents, right? What do you think? I'm thinking about asking her to marry me. What do you think? I'm not somebody that does that.
Well,
so,
I wouldn't necessarily say that question. I would say, like, okay, we were at his, let's say my aunt and uncle, Larry and Mary,
yeah.
right? And let's say that I had known at that time that I could have gone to them. I would say, this situation came up. I met his parents, and this is not a real situation. I can't think of one at the moment, but I met his parents, and this is what happened, and they're enough removed, but they have enough life experience where I'd be presenting a specific situation, to be able to assess, like, is this guy mentally and emotionally stable, right? So, okay, here's a funny example. Hopefully it's funny. I didn't have time to call anyone. The night before we got married, we were out and about. I think we were at a business meeting that went late because we were in network marketing. And on the way home, you got pulled over speeding. It's always been just speeding. Yeah. There's never been, and I found out that you had outstanding, warrants.
Warrant for speeding ticket.
Right.
For not paying, for failure to pay a ticket.
So the night before our wedding, you were hauled away to jail. And I think once I realized, I think I knew right away that because I was with you. So, and it happened to be in the parking lot of our apartment. Yeah. So fortunately, it was easy for me just to walk in.
And you came and bailed me out.
Your parents did.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And because I didn't have that money to.
How did they respond? Maybe that was how. You didn't think it was a big deal, because I guarantee you my parents didn't.
No, I thought it was a big deal, but I was
my parents didn't think it was a big deal.
Well, they didn't flip out. They were not happy to be out at 11 o'clock or midnight or whatever and pay $600 or something to get you out. But, so I saw that, and I think that's helpful, when you do need to be together long enough where you do go through a few challenging scenarios so you can see how people act and interact. And I came from a family that would have been very explosive about something like that, but I learned early on I didn't want to be like that, because even as a kid I'm like, that's not that big of a deal, and so I had some time to think in the apartment while your parents were bailing you out and bringing you back. How big of a deal is this?
Yeah.
And so they were just they were just speeding tickets.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you had a string of DUIs or something like that.
No.
And none of them were related to that. And I thought, okay, that's not a big enough deal to call it off, right? And I'm sure, yeah, seeing how your parents, you know, were about it, and then you were about it. You weren't like overly apologetic. It was just like, that really stinks, you know, that happened. And so, you know, that was quite a pop quiz right before we got married.
Yeah.
I forget why I came to that, why that was.
What unexpected things does he do to keep you intrigued, and what do you feel in the moment
That's
when he's... Oh, funny.
so so that would have been something if I had more time, you know, and I knew that I could go to my aunt and uncle. That would have been a scenario like, okay, this is what happened. Is that that big of a deal? But I had to use like my higher self, kind of have that conversation with myself and future self. And so though I think the question needs to be more specific, not like, do you think I should marry this person, or do you think I should get married or go to college or do this or that? I think there needs to be more specific questions, and that's not a question for me. I think for women, your friends are not the one to bring it to, because they have the same amount of life experience as you do,
Yeah, that's a
typically,
good
or
point.
less. And so you need to go to someone who has had a lot more life experience and really does truly have your best interest at heart. You know, your friends can be jealous, you know, or like I had one friend said, what do you see in him? And I'm like, what don't you see in him? But at the same time, that was good, you know, because if she was like, I want him, you know, that can happen, right? And then they're purposely, or maybe not consciously, but giving you bad advice because they're jealous, or maybe they have plans.
Yeah. By the way, this is the Jon and Tara podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Not sponsored by Poncho, but hey, Poncho.
Hey, great shirts.
Look at the shirts I'm wearing. You know, I even mountain bike in these sometimes.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know, any more questions? It's good questions. Because I do.
Well, I was just thinking about your conversations on Wifey School. And that's a good the Wifey Wake Up podcast is really good because it's 15 minutes long. It's a nice something in the morning that somebody could watch and think about. You know, it's very simple points and concepts and things. And you said you're going to do a submission series based on our submission talks about the relationship and the man and the woman. You know, there's three things to submit to there. And the order of those and how they work and what happens when they work.
Do you or do men lose interest in a relationship? Because one of your questions was, you know, what helps to
How do you feel? How quickly do you feel bored?
Yeah.
In between exciting times? 10 minutes. No. I don't think most men lose interest. I think most men are driven away. I don't think women are taught nowadays how to attract a man other than the exterior and the obvious, right? But I think there's a lot of things that women can do to attract and then build a deep bonded relationship and continue to entice, right? And doesn't have to be sex, our times, 99% of our times do not include sex, you know.
How do I keep you, what's attractive to you? What keeps things interesting to you?
The potential that I could take you out and go drinking. Day drinking. and just talking, just having fun. That's
before or after drinking.
It's kind of what we do. That's why we ended up doing this podcast, because we talk so much.
Because all of our day drinking?
No, well, yeah, kind of, because we talk so much. One of our early ones, we were drinking wine. We haven't done that in a long time. We should do a wino JTP, Jon and Tara podcast.
So really, the what keeps you intrigued is just even the potential of.
Well, you know, you are what. What's that Christine gal that talks about relationships?
You mean Esther?
Esther, yeah. Yeah, every woman out there is either Becky or Christine to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Esther
Perel talks about, one person can't be your everything. And I would argue that to a large degree that yes, one person can be, but you've got to decide how much you're going to demand of them, right? So you are literally my best friend. You're and I don't even rate people that way. I'm not like, this is my best friend, this is my second best friend, this is my third best friend, but kind of my first best friend sometimes when my second and my first are kind of being mean. So then, yeah, I left high school in 8th grade, so I don't have any of that cliquey bullshit going on in my mind.
Well, there's only first, there's no second. There's only...
That's right. There's no second place.
There's no second place.
You're the first first loser if you're in second.
Right, Ricky Bobby.
First one to get last. Well, we joked about that when we were kids,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a Ricky Bobby thing. He got it from out in the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in the zeitgeist at the time.
Totally. I remember seeing kids at the motocross track crying because they got second. Because their dad always said, if you get second, you're the first loser. That's so healthy. It is so healthy. I don't care what all the psychologists in the world say, that is the most healthy thing. Because that drive and willingness to achieve and try to succeed is the desire to achieve and succeed. That's the only thing there is. I mean, there's love, and then there's competition. I mean, that's truly. It's such a driver, right? I mean, when you met me, you wanted to be with me, and you wanted to get with me before you saw anyone else getting with me, right? So you were competing because you were sticking around and wearing your nicest hostess outfit from Chanhassen Dinner Theater, where you worked at that time. Yeah, you're on display on my display case, leaning against it. You were not top
overtly,
of it.
yeah.
Oh, it was overt. It was totally overt. I turned around and you're standing there. I was like, "Hi, Tara," and then I was doing a bunch of stuff, teaching, and I turned back around and you're still standing there, and I'm like, I think the first 2 times I didn't say anything. That's probably why you stayed there. You wanted acknowledgement.
Well, I had to make sure you saw it. Yep.
Got all gussied up for me.
Yep. Well, yep. You got to have the right bait.
So do guys get? I don't think so. I think
You're saying pushed away. So
they get driven away because all the just the nagging and the hitting on the same topics all the time. And we've talked about that in the past. Things that you didn't realize that you were saying to me that you thought were encouragement because you're very positive about a lot of things, but positive encouragement can be very negative if, it's kind of like telling your little league player to swing at that fastball and they can't even see it, right? They're just batting off of a tee and they can't see the ball coming at them, so it just goes right by and they don't even have a flinch movement, And so, a lot of women, they think very highly of their men, and then they project that very greatly. They project in a large fashion very quickly. Well, yeah, because the guy will agree, yeah, I'm out there. I'm killing it. I'm kicking ass. I just got a raise. I'll probably get another one in 6 months. Yeah. I'm doing some stuff. I got my lawn mowing on the weekends. I'm teaching fishing lessons on every other weekend. And, and so the guy's like, I just made, $5,000 extra this month. And, now you start multiplying that. And if I do more, I could do this. And then, and then all of a sudden nobody wants fishing lessons and nobody, it's winter and you can't mow lawns. You don't have a snow plow, so you can't plow snow. And if you're now you got to spend, $85,000 doing a plow setup, and then you didn't make any money because it didn't actually snow. And life happens, right? But the women will still have their same projection of where they're going and expecting the guy to provide that. And if the guy can't, he's going to feel worthless.
So how can they come back from that? I mean, from a guy's perspective, what would he want from his wife? because this is usually, it's gone over a prolonged period of time, right? What would he need from her to recover from that?
Well, guys aren't very good at explaining why things aren't happening. A good guy will just be consistent no matter what. A good man is consistent, and if nothing else, right? He's consistent. And so he'll just keep driving, right? He'll think of another way, but it might cost a little extra money, or he'll find I'll sell a few things and then I can do that, but if the economy's low, it's hard to sell stuff for a decent amount of money. So you're kind of trapped in it's a catch-22 all the time. I can make a lot of money doing that, but it's going to cost me a lot to get there. Oh, and then all of a sudden,
or time.
Or time. Yeah, we never spend any time together. Yeah, but we're making a lot of money, or we don't have any money. Well, I don't have a job, and we're always together, and now I'm irritated about you, and by you, and so. Yeah, I don't. Most guys I know have not left their women, even if they've been divorced. They weren't the ones to leave. It was the dissatisfaction of the woman, or the pushing away, driving, and then she's like, he never pays attention to me. But the only attention he ever gets is this kind of hard pounding, what I want, what we need to do together, what we should be doing, what I want, and I think women have done that since the feminism trend in a way, because they're like, well, you always hear women can do whatever men can do. You don't hear it the other way. You don't hear men saying, I can do whatever a woman can do. Women should be comparing themselves to themselves. This is what I'm capable of now. In 6 months, I'm going to have this skill. I'm going to practice this. I'm going to train in that, and then I'm going to be able to do this, right? But it's always a competition with men. And I think in the business world, women should look at themselves as people, just like men do. Men don't run around going, I'm a man. Men just go, I'm in this trade and I'm getting better at it, and I'm looking to get a raise in 3 months. I'm looking to get a bonus on this job, so I'm going to work hard. Then I run around and go, I'm a man, I can work hard. I'm going to get a bonus because I'm a man. And I think that's a failure of feminism, and it's a failure of modern women to think that they don't have rights, that they're still fighting for something. They're not fighting for anything. They're fighting against themselves if they're constantly pushing this agenda that women don't have equal rights. Because I see women as having more rights nowadays, and more preferred status, and more legs up to places than men. And still, I know there's a category of men out there that are complaining, but I'm never going to complain about it. I'm a man. I don't complain about women or what women are doing to me. I'll just go somewhere else if it's a problem, or I'll change what I'm doing, or I'll compete differently, and I won't even say anything. I'll just blow everyone out of the water. I don't compete with anybody that way. I compete with myself. That's the competition I'm talking about.
So what can women do to help relieve the pressure?
Focus. Pressure on what?
So you're saying that I have to go back. Women push men away. And that's
from a relationship, yeah.
Yeah. And so from a man's perspective, is there anything that can be done to heal that, to gain the relationship back?
I think everybody will benefit themselves if they read 100 books. I would never tell somebody, here's the book you need to read. I would say you need to read 100 books. And if they said, which books, what type of books, I wouldn't tell them. I would just say, start reading. You'll be guided. You'll find the information. The books will speak to you. The information will speak to you. And if the books are not focusing, it's going to get noisy. If the books, it's going to get noisy here again. 3, 2, 1. So, if the books are not helping you become a better you, if they're blaming books, if they're victimizing books, or if they're pointing you towards a political agenda on whatever side and whichever way, they're not good books. The best books are neutral and tell you to do what you can do to make things right in your life or make things right in the world. To do what you can do, not to make 100 people do what you want them to do, or to make your spouse do what you want them to do. I had to coax you. I had to talk to you in a way that you could hear me. I couldn't just yell at you. I couldn't just shut you down, because I'm truly in love with you, and you're truly my life partner, my wife, my other half,
Bestie.
my best friend. I think that you have to learn the language of your spouse. It's like multiple languages, so it's natural for you to think, okay, what is this person's language? Maybe that's not natural for you, but it should be, right? Because everybody is, even speaking English, is speaking a different language. They have their biases, they have their desires, they have their fears, right? And all of those things lend to speaking their own language of their own reality, right? And even though your reality isn't the map of another person's reality, it's not the map of the world. Your reality is a conglomeration of what I just said: your biases, your fears, your loves, your likes, your wants, your needs, right? And so sometimes somebody doesn't listen. For many years, I'll be honest, you didn't listen very well. You had a very kind of aligned linear path that you thought you would be traveling upon, and it included things that may or may not have happened in our lives, and maybe not in the right time frames, or not at all, and maybe sooner than later, maybe later than sooner. But you were not as adaptable in the beginning. Now you're more dynamic, you're more flexible, you're more adaptive, and you see, for the most part, you see life as it is. You see the map of reality in front of you, and you overlay it to a degree on yourself and how you think you should be doing things because of what is, right? I just got a text from a friend the other day, and he said, "Do you want to meet? There's a group of us that are going to meet and talk about these things." And I said, "Yeah," and it's based on a map of a reality that we see, or people see in the world, and so it's it's good to adapt and to update, right? We get updates for our phones, we get updates for our computers, we update our financial status, we update our credit score, we update, all these things, right? Nowadays we update our cars, and putting new tires on your car is an update, right? Putting fuel in your car is an update, right? It goes from empty to full. That's an update, right?
Or just maintenance.
Yeah. So new spark plugs is an update, all that kind of stuff. I think that needs to happen for people, and that goes back to what should a young lady look for in a young man, and should a young lady be looking at, young guys her age, or guys a bit older, or even guys younger, depending on her age, right? If she's in her 30s, does she look to go out with a 28-year-old or a 25-year-old even, or whatever, right? It depends on the person, depends on their life, what they're looking at, but first thing I would say is read 100 books. And that might sound crazy, but you can read 100 books in a year. It's one every 3 days, every 4 days-ish, 3.5 days, but you could if you wanted to. Especially a lot of these people that are on unemployment and don't have jobs. If they read 100 books, they'd get off unemployment. They wouldn't be able to help it. Plus, they'd end up with some knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah. There's something a lot earlier that I was going to mention, but I totally forgot after you posed your questions. So where do your questions stem from today?
Well, I hear you when you're in the other room, in your studio, in your podcast studio, and you're talking about different things, and so I was a little bit, I was just thinking what would be good, for you to talk about, and what would be some good questions for me to ask you. And would be good for young ladies or even middle-aged ladies to hear. You know, I mean, if you're 60 years old and you just got divorced or your spouse died, you know, how are you going to go develop a new relationship? You know, that's important too. You know?
Yeah, I think that would be a very different scenario also. Get loud again.
Harleys are coming.
I don't know, one looks like a Ducati.
Oh, yeah, it's Ducati. You can hear that.
Maybe not.
Yeah, the front one was.
Is it the red one? That's what I thought. Doesn't sound like it.
Didn't sound like it. Could have been a Honda. They make a bike that looks kind of like a Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, before we started recording here, a question that I saw that's out there is, how do I get my wife to be interested in me again? And I think that would be, do you want to try answering that first, or shall I?
Well, I don't think we have enough information. I mean, to me, a guy is probably saying, how do I get her to be intimate? But I think you got to be the Romeo, right? You got to be the Romeo to her Juliet. You got to let her know that you desire her, and then I think you got to leave her alone a little bit, right? Like, you got to go do things, right? Go. You know, if you used to go shooting, go shooting. If you used to, you know, play lawn darts, go play lawn darts. You know, if you used to golf, go golf, something like that, and then, you know, send a little emoji kissy face or something, and then tell her, you know, I'll be home at 6:30 and be ready to go out, you know, and take her out to dinner, you know, and don't expect anything. I mean, you know, there's how many times, you know, I've expected something and you're not in the mood, or you've expected something and I'm not in the mood, and we both accommodate each other, you know, whether we are there for each other in that need of that satisfactional fulfillment, or we are just, hey, okay, let's watch a movie, you know, let's just hang out, lay on the couch, you know, hold hands, rub feet, you know, whatever it is, watch a movie, you know, and it doesn't have to be sexual.
I think there are times, though, that you do, even if you don't, and I'm not just talking about sex here, but even if you don't feel like it, you have to shift your energy, you know, because you could be in a rut, and someone's got to make the change.
Okay, since you brought that up, I'll say this. Guys, if you're looking at porn on your phone or online, or even just bikini babes and all that kind of stuff, your energy is going to push your wife away. That's going to happen. You're not going to be attractive to her because your metaphysiological sexual energy is being depleted, because you don't just deplete it because you have physical sex. You deplete it because you have mental sex. This is why in the Bible it says, have no impure thoughts, right? No, you can't lust after your neighbor. You know, that's in the commandments. You know, don't covet your neighbor's wife and that
Ox
type.
Or ass.
Well, her, yeah. Oxen or ass, or, you know, or neighbor. You know, you can't. You got to stay away from that. That energetic side of you is so real. It's so real. You don't even understand. And now they just did some clinical studies a few years ago about even the shirt I'm wearing is not good for me, the polyester stuff, for your energetic field, right? Mm-hmm. The Bible says don't mix fabrics. Well, certain fabrics are highly energetic and certain fabrics are neutral. And if you wear the two fabrics together, they cancel each other out and you don't get anything from them. So if you wear the natural wool and that kind of stuff,
linen was the highest.
Linen is the highest. It gives you energy.
Yeah.
It's like an energy conductor from the ether into your body.
Neutral. Or
Cotton's neutral. Wool was neutral. You know, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. It's literal biblical statement that now is proven by scientific fact, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Talk about blow your mind. Well, if that's true, you can deplete your psychosexual energy by being a psychosexual, you know, by thinking you need to see TNA all the time. And I get it. It's, you know, you could, I'll tell you this would be a good short. I could flip through 100 women and maybe 4 of them would make a part of me activate, right? Part of me would tingle. I'm not just saying my balls, I'm not just saying my sexual organs, right? But part of me would go, oh, because there's a look, there's a shape, and it might even be a energetic connection to that actual person, that could potentially be, 2 out of 100. You could probably be married to 1 out of 100. I don't know what the number is, but you come across that, and that's what the guys are looking for when they're looking for that zing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh man, blondes do it for me, but after you look at 1,000 blondes ain't doing it for you anymore, because you're wearing out that energy in yourself. And so if you need to keep looking at it to get that little bing, or you need to find the next thing that gives you that bing, and then all of a sudden you find you need to look at something else to give it, that's, you're wearing it out. It's like the high of the drug, right? You need more of the drug to get high, more alcohol to get drunk, more, all this stuff.
The switch only has so many clips in it.
Yeah, you're truly wearing out your energy, and that will push your wife away.
And I would say women out there who it can feel it. Can feel when a guy is looking at you.
I don't think. Well, yeah, because communication is redundant. He can't help but look up and down and scan and then kind of have that lecherous look, like, hey baby, what you doing?
Yeah, I mean that's an extreme, but there are gradients of that as well.
Yeah, but I would say that if she's not attracted to you, you got to look at what you're doing. You got to look at what you're not doing. But you definitely have to look at what you are doing in private. Because it's not private. Nothing is private. Mm-hmm. Everything is out in the open. It's out in the open energetically. Mm-hmm. So I would say that that's very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say similarly, the woman needs to look at herself. And you need to communicate. It's usually about things that you feel like you can't communicate. You've been trying to communicate and you always butt heads. It comes to an argument. And I actually, in one of my podcasts, did share some strategies on how to get around that, if you keep having a conversation where you butt heads. But likewise, the woman needs to look at herself, and this is what I did at one point. And, I knew we were butting heads about the situation, and I had to have a conversation with myself. How much of the problem is me? Or just even considering I was all the problem. I just assumed that. And tried changing some things, and it actually worked.
That's the best thing, to assume it's all you and then work on yourself, because you can't change somebody else. You will innately change somebody by you changing, because it's like this. We're side by side, and see, I'm putting my fingers in front. Now you can only see one finger, right? Oh, we're side by side. Literally changing your position, changing the entire perspective of what is seen, felt, heard, perceived, all of that. So change yourself, change your world.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Should we end on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great ending.
It's been just over an hour.
Sounds good.
All right. Subscribe.
Like, comment.
Jon and Tara, share. You don't have to like and comment, but subscribe and share.
All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.